Welcome back, Design Junkies, to Mechanical Engineering Made Simple. If what we do here brings you value, help support the show with a like, a follow, or just leave a comment below. So let's talk about that moment of dread. You're staring at a vibration spectrum. It looks like pure chaos, but you know the health of a multi-million-dollar machine is hanging on what you decide next. It's a massive headache for sure, but you know what? It really doesn't have to be.
So here's the game plan. In the next few minutes, we're going to take that jumbled mess and turn it into a crystal clear story. We'll start by talking about the biggest trap engineers fall into, then we'll bust 3 myths that are probably killing your data right now. After that, I'm going to give you the pros playbook for getting clean data every single time. We'll even talk about how to analyze moving targets, and we'll wrap it all up by answering some of your top questions.
All right, let's get right to it. Here's the hard truth. The problem probably isn't your expensive hardware. It's the default settings. Honestly, relying on them is like trying to navigate a minefield with a blindfold on. You are absolutely, positively going to miss something critical.
And that leads to this question, the one every single one of us has asked. Why does my data look like useless noise? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's not noise. It's actually a really complex story about what's happening inside your machine, but it's being told in a language you don't speak yet. Our job today is to learn how to translate it.
So, how do we start translating? Well, first things first, we have to get rid of the 3 gremlins that are scrambling the signal. These are the silent killers of good data, the things that turn a clear story into total gibberish. Let's call them out by name so we can get rid of them.
So, meet your culprits. Aliasing, which basically creates phantom signals that aren't really there. Then there's leakage, which smears your data all over the place. And finally, the picket fence effect, which can hide the true peaks. These things are just baked into digital signal processing, but don't worry, you can totally outsmart them.
Okay, first up, aliasing. You've definitely seen this before. Think about old movies where a car's wheels look like they're spinning backwards. That's aliasing. It happens when you sample a signal too slowly and high frequencies get disguised as low frequencies. Now, the good news is that modern analyzers have really powerful anti-aliasing filters that pretty much prevent this. But, and this is a big but, it's still crucial to understand what's happening, because if that filter is set wrong, your entire measurement is garbage.
Next up is leakage, and this one is a really big deal. See, the math behind the FFT, the fast Fourier transform, it assumes your little data sample is a perfect, endlessly repeating loop, which in the real world it never is. So that mismatch forces the energy from a nice sharp peak to leak out, smearing it into this wide, messy blob that hides both the true frequency and the true amplitude. It's kind of like dropping a bit of ink on paper and watching it spread out, obscuring the original dot.
And finally, we've got the picket fence effect. And the name is perfect. Imagine you're looking at a beautiful mountain range, but you're looking at it through a picket fence. You can only see what's between the slats, right? So if the true peak of a mountain is hidden behind one of those slats, you're going to misjudge how tall it is. The exact same thing happens with your data. The FFT only calculates values at discrete frequency lines. And if your true peak falls between those lines, you're going to get an amplitude error. Simple as that.
Now, beyond those digital gremlins, there's a visual one, the linear amplitude scale. I'm telling you, sticking to this default setting is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Why? Because it literally makes you blind to some of the most important diagnostic clues.
This little comparison says it all, really. A linear scale only shows you the loudest noise, the bullies of the spectrum. But the critical diagnostic information, the stuff like early bearing faults or gear mesh sidebands, those are whispers. A logarithmic scale lets you hear everything, from the roar all the way down to the whisper, and it reveals the full story your machine is trying to tell you.
All right, we've named our enemies. Now it's time to fight back. And this isn't about guesswork. It's about a simple 4-step playbook that gives you total control over your data and delivers clean, accurate results every time.
This right here is your new pre-flight checklist. Before you ever hit start on a measurement, you're going to consciously do these 4 things. 1, switch your amplitude to logarithmic. 2, select a data window to get rid of that leakage. 3, set a proper averaging time to get a stable picture. And 4, zoom in and actually inspect the fine details. Okay, let's talk about windows. This is your weapon against leakage. And the rule is actually super simple. If you're looking at a transient event, like an impact test, use a rectangular window. For literally everything else, any continuous stationary signal, your default should always be a Hanning window. This one choice tapers the data at the ends of your sample, and that dramatically reduces leakage and cleans up your whole spectrum. So, how long do you need to average? Well, for predictable deterministic signals, you just need to average long enough to smooth out any beating between frequencies. But for random signals, things like turbulence, you need to get a stable picture. Think of it like taking a long exposure photograph in low light. The BTA product is your shutter speed. A BTA of 16 is a great starting point. It'll get you a sharp, clear image of your spectrum with minimal statistical noise.
So, everything we've talked about so far assumes a stable, stationary signal, but in the real world, machines speed up and they slow down. Analyzing these moving targets requires a whole different set of tools. So, let's level up.
Yeah, this is the classic challenge, isn't it? Standard analysis assumes a stable frequency. But during a machine run-up, every frequency that's tied to the shaft speed is a moving target. And this causes something called spectral smearing, where your nice, sharp peaks get blurred across the whole spectrum, making them pretty much useless.
So your first tool here is the waterfall plot. This thing is awesome. It stacks individual spectra over time or RPM to create this 3D map of your machine's behavior. And it's brilliant because it instantly separates what's related to the machine's speed from what's related to the structure itself. The speed harmonics become these radial lines shooting out from the origin, while the fixed structural resonances show up as straight walls, parallel to the RPM axis.
But if you really want to master non-stationary signals, you have to use tracking analysis. Basically, you use a tachometer, and the analyzer samples a fixed number of times per revolution instead of per second. And the effect is, well, it's magical. It freezes all the speed-related harmonics in place. That whole spectral smearing problem? Gone. Instead, you get these incredibly sharp, clear peaks that tell you exactly what's happening at 2 times, 3 times, or any multiple of your shaft speed.
All right, let's wrap this up by hitting some of the most common practical questions that you're going to face when you're actually out there in the field taking these measurements.
We touched on this, but it is so important it's worth saying again. You're looking at a random signal. How long do you actually need to average to be able to trust the result?
Remember that camera analogy? The BTA product is your guide. A BTA of 16 is your starting point for a clear picture with about 1 dB of statistical error. But here's the kicker. To cut that error in half, to get an even sharper photo, you have to quadruple the averaging time. So just remember, precision has a time cost.
Okay, another critical setup choice, your filter bandwidth. If you go too wide, you blur important details together. If you go too narrow, your test takes forever. So what's the sweet spot?
Well, the answer really depends on your signal. For periodic signals, your goal is to separate the harmonics, so you need to make your bandwidth at least 3 to 5 times smaller than the spacing between them. For random signals, you're probably trying to define the shape of resonance peaks, so a good rule of thumb is to set your bandwidth to about 1/3 of the width of the narrowest peak you actually care about.
So let's bring it all home. The next time you see that chaotic-looking spectrum, don't see noise. See a story that's just waiting to be told. Switch to a log scale. Use a Hanning window. Average intelligently, and if things are moving, use tracking analysis. Your data is talking. The only question left is, are you ready to listen? If you got something useful out of today's episode, hit follow and drop a like. It helps grow the show and keeps the engineering knowledge flowing.